What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday to you. And if you're in Michigan, I'm sure you got kids at home because it's winter break. I wanted to just do this quick video because I've been on this historical exploration, just trying to understand, the world I live in, the country I live in. And, it's interesting. A lot of people forget that America was founded during the Enlightenment period. And that period is very important because we saw the rise of philosophical idealism that really broke away from monarchs and also religious authority. And the Enlightenment period was interesting because you had a lot of people who were very dissonant about both of those institutions, religion and monarchies. And so with America, we saw this birth of a republic that was enlightened by its philosophy, and they founded themselves on free idealism, right? And really, America is really the Masonic motto. It's the Masonic motto. It's really all of the ideas, all of the good and the bads from these monarchies of the past, these powers of the past, and it's sort of a fusion of that. And so we look at America, we look at our foundations, and we can pull from almost any aspect of any major world empire that's fused here in America. But America, in my opinion, really mirrors the Roman Empire in many ways. And it's interesting to contrast America to Rome because there's a lot of things happening right now in America that really parallels what caused the Roman Empire to fall. So Rome essentially got eaten from within. There was a lot of social, political rivalries within, but Rome had also had open borders. So that's why Western Rome fell first, because the borders were open. You had all these barbarians and these nations coming in, pretty much infiltrating the nation. And so Rome decided to try to integrate these people who had no loyalty, no allegiance to Rome into their military. And they also incorporated some of these people into their governmental policy making. Well, obviously that was the beginning of the end for Rome, and Rome fell for a variety of different reasons. Number one, they had open borders. Number two, they had a lot of infighting that was eating the nation and the power from within. But then Rome also had a expensive taste, and they were building structures and they were funding things that really didn't necessarily align with the needs of the people, but of the glory of the people who were in power and their friends. And so you saw Rome racked up a debt that it could not really reconcile. And so obviously they had to focus on conquering other nations, right, so that they can address their debt issue, right? But while Rome was distracted trying to get spoils for Rome, you had all these invasions that they had to deal with simultaneously. So you're talking about resources being dispersed all kinds of different ways in that empire, to the point where financially it got weakened, and obviously it was able to collapse. And then many of those territories that Rome had taken over, they pretty much dispersed into their own independent dynasties, nations, whatever. And I say this to say that, when you look at the fall of the Roman Empire, then you see sort of this rise of religious and national power sort of infiltrate throughout the French, the German, right, the Italians, right. They're all sort of bouncing power, but all of this power is empowered by a pope in some kind of way, or part of some line of family, right? So they were bloodline rulership, and then it was just a lot of crazy stuff, right? Then, while Rome is falling, right, 300 years later, you see the complete rise of America, right? And again, it's notable to say that America was founded during the Enlightenment period, because during that time, that is where you really saw the rise of Freemasonry. And a lot of people have arguments about the Freemasons, who they are, what they represent. A lot of people believe that it's just a secret brotherhood of people of like interests, while other people argue that there is a lot of occultism going on within the Masonic orders that helps people maintain their power. And to be honest with you, there's not a real mystery for me personally when it comes to Freemasons, right? They are very much aligned with the occult and Satanism, just because Satan does give power. He does give power. Demons can enlighten men. We've seen this in the book of Enoch, where we had 200 watchers or 200 tutors that were supposed to come to this earth, celestial sons, to tutor us, to teach us and show us how things work. This was supposed to be a progression of knowledge for man, right? But what they did was pretty much overload us, much like the school district does with our kids, with various different loaded ideas, and they pretty much leave man to kind of figure out the application. There are some people, right, who are more intelligent, right? These individuals are more susceptible and attractive to darker forces because they can leverage them better. And so even when you talk about intelligence and knowledge, right? There's knowledge all around. It's just, if you're a knowledge seeker, you're going to have it. Your intelligence is going to be heightened no matter what social class that you come from, right? The Enlightenment period was the period where everyone had access to the knowledge and the intelligence, versus when you looked at the Renaissance period was only a booming sort of era of art and knowledge and intellectualism for a very few. You go back, and most commoners really did not have that same Renaissance resurgence, rebirth, as the higher elite classes, or those individuals who were really developing what we could assume would be the Masonic order. These kings, these duchesses, these people wanted to maintain power. Power within their families was very important, and that's why male children have always been important to bloodlines, because typically it was, if there was not an heir, then the bloodline would stop, and they would have to go and find some proxy cousin, distant away male to do it. I think England and some other nations, they did it with, they did have female rulers. Some of them did rule for a considerable duration of time, but most of the time these bloodlines were passed on by, this power was passed on from male to male, right? So they did start getting a little bit diverse, if you will. But I say this to say that, there are a lot of forces, both human and not human, spiritual, that we as individuals contend with. And again, we do not so much contend with the flesh as we do principalities. We contend with the desires of our flesh, but when it comes to our consciousness, what we know, what we think, what we believe, this is where the struggle of principalities really come from, right? Because you see it, the sort of the spirit of the Masons is very much manifested into not just high elite people. You have that covetousness for power and money and riches of all people, right? Back before the Enlightenment phase, I would argue that most commoners never thirsted for nothing that they didn't think that they could achieve. Now you have the order of America where it was founded on everybody, whether you're a commoner or whatever, you can achieve because we're enlightened and we believe that people should be able to work hard and think about things that are true to them and their own experience versus letting a pope dictate to you how you should think about religion. You should explore religion by yourself, as opposed to having a politician dictate to you about democracy. You should explore what democracy really means for yourself. So the Enlightenment philosophy that America was founded on was really rooted in individualism, the individual person being able to develop themselves naturally and organically. That is not the same America that we evolved into. Excuse me. We didn't evolve into that. What we have evolved in is very reminiscent to old power structures. And it's even getting so bad to the point where Americans and next generations are not even being educated about how the republic is structured and how states do have sovereign powers that are not vested in the federal government. And it's interesting to me how we are sort of going back in time to the ideologies and the mindsets and even the structures of some of these old monarchy, papal type powers. And it really does call into question, is America being run by fundamental Americans, or is it being run by a select group of people who are dictating what should happen in this nation? Right. And from that select group of people, I will say that, when you look at the U.S. history from the foundation, we have had Freemasons in the mix. And I say that to say that, when we learn about history, we never hear, and even just Nazi Germany, we never, ever hear it centered on Hitler having a disdain for Freemasons and any who were association with them, which happened to be many Jewish people. So let me know what you guys think. As I'm digging up history and looking at history from a broad lens, and I listen to some of the rhetoric that's going on in this country, some of the political and social sides of this country, I can't help but feel deceived. Manipulated in so many different ways by the rhetoric, and even down to the promotion of thought between the individual groups in America to keep them divided. It seems very, very calculated at this point. Like we are talking about America, we've been far removed from, our history of slavery, yet we have managed to figure out a way to enslave the populations by means of economic policies that either short squeeze people out of their earnings or outright prohibit people from meeting their true actualization. So it seems to me that when you're talking about Masonic orders, you're talking about a very specific, concentrated group of people who feel like they are the only ones in any world society that can be actualized as people, meaning that they are completely within themselves, divorced of anything that holds them back from being, optimum capable people. Majority of the people in the world are being robbed by that. And I think that when you kind of go back and look at some of the individuals who were against Freemasons, it wouldn't be hard to conclude that that is the reason why. The sheer disenfranchisement of massive amounts of people in the service of just a few individuals who come from dynasties and bloodlines for centuries that still have maintained some kind of power and control, not because of they're just being awesome people. It's because they're freaking devil worshippers. And the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. And just like Satan was able to offer Jesus the riches of the world, so too can he offer other men the riches and the kingdoms of the world. And that is what he has done. And he has created his Masonic order, his temple, his followers, his church on earth. And what's really disgusting is that that order has fused itself with major religious groups. And when we hear John talk about the end days and the revelation, right? In I think it's Revelation chapter, I want to say 14 or 15, he talks about Satan, the prophet, which is the Antichrist, and all of their minions, the men on earth, their order. It's called the disgusting thing. That is called the disgusting thing that they created, because it is this disgusting thing that has influenced and pretty much led mankind to its ruin. So let me know what you guys think. I've been digging into this, just history in general. I don't really care to do anything in depth on the Masons because to me, I don't really care who they are. I don't care who they are. They can stay secret forever, right? I know what they are. I know who they worship. I know how they get their power, right? And to me, it's all part of prophecy anyways. So I don't really care to be one of those people. I'm going to expose the Masons. It's like, there's nothing to expose. They're Satanists, okay? They get their power from Satan. That is why they are deeply involved in alchemy, spiritism, and even down to creating technologies to even materialize their gods outside of just worshiping, hearing, and incantations, which many of them are, participate in as part of their satanic rituals for power. So that is my random thought for today. I just, it really irks me when I hear people just talking, oh, Freemasons are this, we got to expose them. It's like, no, we don't. No, we don't. We know that they come from lines of royalty. We know that they come from lines of secrecy. And really, their secrecy is really because you have mankind on earth who don't want to be exposed. They actually understand the shame of being a devil worshiper. And that's what many of them are. That is how many of them get their secure power on earth. There is no secret to this, okay? If you want to be rich, if you want to be wealthy, if you want to have relevance and high esteem in this world, you need to sacrifice yourself to the devil in some way. That is the secret. There's no big secret between the Masons outside of the fact that they're devil worshippers. And this world belongs to Satan. And if you say, I belong to you, Satan, if you give him yourself, your fealty, in exchange for you having to influence mankind in some detrimental way, that is the only way you are going to be able to have the power. You have to have the will. and the mindset and the consciousness that you love yourself and your power so much that you would do anything to another man, including mass genocide, killing people. It doesn't matter. Satan needs that in your heart in order for you to have optimum power. And these people have submitted to that optimum power, and they have those things in their heart. And that is why globally and for centuries, you have seen devastation upon man by the hands of organized men empowered by Satan. So again, let me know what you guys think, but I think that you should keep your prayers up. I think you should relearn. That means what I had to do is I grew up in a Christian household. What I had to do was divorce myself from what anybody else taught me. I divorced myself from what anybody else taught me, and I relearned things and I re-understood things based off of the patterns of things. And the patterns don't lie, and they're all around. And if you are truly enlightened, and if your enlightenment is empowered by Yahweh, the Most High, Supreme God, who will stomp on Satan any day of the week if he just wanted to, but by his purpose, he is allowing Satan to prove himself a liar. He's allowing Satan to prove that he cannot create a kingdom that will last. Every single world-dominated kingdom that was created under any guise of mankind's power and fealty to Satan has crumbled. We are now at the last kingdoms, the last world empires on this earth. Babylon has fallen. Medo-Persia has fallen. Greece has fallen. The Roman Empire has fallen. The only thing that we're dealing with are the Masons from the fragmented Roman Empire and the new beast, which is America. And once these things fall, I think that a lot of things in history and Bible prophecy will really come to the front, and people will really understand what time it is and why they shouldn't really just write off the ancient text as just stories. And I've had to make a lot of adjustments in my life the last couple of years because it's real time. We have all kind of bought into some type of satanic idealism in some way, and it is worthwhile to divorce it. If you are a demonic patriot of a nation with histories of genocides and supporting genocide, you need to re-examine your faith if you profess to be a believer in God. If you're someone buying into the satanic idealisms and lifestyles and vanities of Hollywood and the music industry, and you profess to be a servant and a loyal individual to the Most High, you need to reassess yourself and make some adjustments, because it's game time, folks. It really is. And I'm one of those people. I would never set a marker or a date or a timeline to the Bible prophecies being completely fulfilled. We just know that right now they are in the process of being fulfilled, and there are a number of signs that indicate this. Nobody knows the day or the hour of mankind's destruction but God, not even the Son in heaven. He just knows that when it's game time, he's going to be called, and it's going to be on and popping on this earth. And, you don't have to believe that. You do not have to believe that. I live by the code that I will never superimpose idealism or my thoughts on my conclusions on other people. I will share them, and I will let people make their own decision. But I do know that the tent of God is with mankind and his righteous people on this earth. And I know that they are going to be protected during this time. And the ones who are righteous are not the ones, I go to church every day, but I worship a politician. You know, I go to church every day, but I do exactly what my fleshly desire tells me to do. It's like I have sinned against God in my life. And when I look back at those sins, I have regret. I was really disgusted in myself that I participated in some of the things that I did, and they weren't like anything against other people. They were just all about my fleshly desires. And I had no consciousness of it because I was all about what I wanted. And none of it ever worked out well for me. I wouldn't say that my life has been like the best thing ever, just being completely independent and devoid of any type of spiritual accountability, right? I had some temporary moments of pleasure and joy, right? But overall, what was I sacrificing? I was sacrificing my salvation. And so, what I'm trying to get people to do is be conscious that you do have an opportunity to make adjustments. You do have an opportunity to change your life. You do have an opportunity to repent. And a lot of people, repenting is hard, especially when you get to know God and you learn about his righteous ways and you learn about all that he has done for his people, and you feel bad for that you ever did anything to disrespect that glory. But God is forgiving. And as we continue to build our spiritual knowledge, understand God's word, he cleanses us of our sins, and he makes us feel lighter. But there's actions that are required of that from us. And we must make consistent changes in our lives to have a good standing before God. There are a lot of people right now in this world who covet being rich in a world that is fading away. And I pray for people, right? I pray for people because, again, we don't know the day or the hour. So it's better, like for some people, it's like, man, YOLO, you only live once, right? Like if I'm only going to live once in this world, I'm going to go out with I'm going to go out as satisfied as I want to be, right? And many people have made that resolve. But when you live your life according to the Most High, Yahweh, we're still, the interpretation of God's name is always, because those syllables, YHWH, is like, how do we fill in the vowels? But, I say Yahweh, Yahuwah. I think it's Yahuwah. I'm really going towards God's name is Yahuwah, just because the Hebrew for Jesus would be Yeshua, and Yeshua is I am. Like he is God's representation. So I really feel like it's Yahuwah. It's Yahuwah and Yeshua. But regardless, know your God's name. The biggest trick that the Jews and the Catholic Church have pulled on mankind is removing the name of the Hebrew God from the Bible, replacing it with Lord, God, Elohim, things like that, because they claim that the name of God is too sacred. But how can God's name be too sacred when God tells us to call upon his name for deliverance? So there's been a lot of manipulation that's gone on in world religions. Politics, the fusion of religion and politics have saw a lot of apostasy spring forth, and it really created the whore that we see as Babylon the Great, which is the world empire of false religion. And that will be dealt with as well. That will be dealt with. And matter of fact, it's going to be dealt with by her husband, world governments, because world governments are going to turn on world religions, because Satan can't have you thinking about God or any other God when all is said and done, world consolidation order, you only need to be thinking about one God and one God only. And if you're not thinking about one God and one God only, you will have your life in danger, your livelihood in danger. And there's a lot of ingredients that are leading up to this, right? You have, with central bank digital currencies, it gives the power of the government to immediately cut you off from your livelihood, your earnings, which you work for. They can be looters. They can be thieves at that point, right? Also, they people think that these ID passport things were just a thing of the pandemic. They're going to come back up. They're going to come back up after some red flag event or some major disaster, which now people need to have these IDs, right? And this is where the immigration thing is really setting this up for the United States, because once you get to a point where you're